All right, this is Daf Yomi in motion, number 789. Today we're going to learn Daf Samech Tes in Metzia, and we're going to be speaking about Schar Amaloi V'tir Chosel. That we learned that in the case where two people enter into a business deal, and one provides the money or the schira, and the other one provides the work, does the work. And they decide that any profits they'll split. That has got problems with it because they're going to split the profits. The one who gave the product, the merchandise, will get all of his Karen back, and he'll get half of the profits. And the one who put the work into it will get half the profits. So that's problematic because why is the one doing the work working for the side of the profits of the person who gave the money, the investor? Why is the person working for him? Because of what the investor gave him to work with in order for himself to make a profit. That's why he's willing to put his time and energy into working also for the profit of the investor. So that's like, and if anything would happen to the side of the person who's the manager, the person doing the physical work, that person would be responsible for those all that part that he has. So that's like
What do you mean the part?
let's say like the certain widgets were given to him, and he has to sell them and make a profit, and all that profit will be split between the both of them. If anything happens like to half of it,
Half of the widgets?
yeah. So if something happens, just like we said, if it goes up in value, they'll split it. But if it goes down in value, they will also split the loss. So the one investing his time and energy is also going to take a loss. So even though he didn't put any money into it, but he's accepting half of the loss and half of the gain. So he won't get, even though he might have spent his time and energy, he won't get reimbursed for that because he might, even if there'll be a loss. So that part, which is completely his responsibility, that's like a halva. It's his mom. And therefore, the only reason he's working and helping the one who the investor, is because he's showing his appreciation, and he's like, it's like payment for the fact that the investor gave him money to work with, right? So the way we get around the problem is you have to give the work person a little bit extra in order that he's getting paid for the effort that he's putting himself out for this side of the investor, and then it won't be ribis. That's what we're discussing. There's many different forms of how to pay him. Some forms are to actually give him a little bit of money. Some forms are to take a little bit of the achrayas off of him. So he'll be achray for less. Let's say he'll be achray for one quarter. He's going to receive one half of profit, but then you have to make him achray for less. And because he's achray for less, that'll be his pay. It's his pay. Or you give him a piece of the animal if they're raising an animal together. You give him the head, and that'll be his payment for having worked for the investor. And that's what the discussion is, and it begins on Daf Samech Ches Amid Beis, 6-7 lines up from the bottom. Omar Rab Nachman, Halacha ki Rebbe Yehuda, v'Halacha ki Rebbe Yossi b'Rebbe Yehuda, v'Halacha ki Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. These were all halachas that we had. The halacha of Rebbe Yehuda is that it doesn't matter. The payment that can go to the worker can be any small amount of benefit that you give him. You can even let him dip his bread into your fish brine. Any favor that you do for him, that's enough according to Rabbi Yehuda. The minimal favor that you do from that can be considered payment for the work that he did for the investor. That's Rabbi Yehuda's shita. It's a very mekel shita. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, his shita that we just had above was that the person where they're raising an animal together, even the bad milk of a goat, the whey, the watery milk, the watery part of the milk, the whey. So that also can be considered the benefit for the pay to the work person, and therefore won't be considered ribas. That's the sheet. And the wool, if they were dealing with a sheep, that will be And if he drives them through a river or through the thickets, and some of the wool comes off in the water or gets stuck on the thickets, that wool that he gets to keep, that small amount, is according to Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, that's also could be payment. And finally, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds also similarly that if you, in the case where they're raising a small baby with its mother, so you don't have to reimburse any for the work person for the infant animal, because it doesn't not costing him anything. First of all, he doesn't have to pick it up on his shoulders to maneuver it, because it follows after the mother. It doesn't require that type of a tircha, and it doesn't require food because it just nurses from the mother. So that was another way of being makel, that in right. You only have to pay for the mother, but the baby you don't have to pay any extra. So these are three halakhas that are being brought down. Zok the Gemara. B'nei Rabbi Elish, Nofak alayhu hahu shtara, the havik sive palga b'ogar palga behefsid. So that's the type of star that we are discussing the whole time over here, when these types of deals between people where they're both accepting half the loss and half of the gain. These are the problematic stars, and the children of Rabbi Elish found one of these staros. Could be the Rabbi Elish was nifter, and they found one of these stars. So Omar Rava, Rabbi Elish Gaber Rabahu, he's a big gadol, and he wouldn't have gone into this type of deal if he knew that it was going to cause, by giving the half profit to the investor, that it was going to cause him to be benefiting from those profits, would be benefiting from ribis. He wouldn't have put himself into a situation like that. He's a Gaber Rabba who the Isura li'inshe lo havi safe. He wouldn't have caused a person to end up receiving Isser. So, Manav Shach. Well, how do we understand what went on with Rabbi Elish? How could he have gotten himself into this type of a deal? So you have to understand that what he probably did was the following. Manav Shach. When he went into it, so you have to say that ipalga b'ogar tilte behefsit. You have to say that the way he arranged it was that if they would arrange that, they would split the profits between themselves, and that was because that was the shtar didn't talk about giving any small payment, any payment to the mekabel. And so how did they do it? So they had to understand that it must have been that if they were splitting the profit evenly, then when it came to the achrayus on the object, on the schayra, so then they would say that the mekabel, if he's getting half, so he would have had to become responsible, or the noisein would have been responsible for trade tilsei, behefset. So the noisein would have taken on himself 2/3 of the responsibility of the schayra, and nevertheless, the mekabel would still get half of the profits. How? Because it ends up that the amount that the mekabel is responsible for, that's what could be considered a milva. So if he's getting more than his milva's share of profits, so then, and obviously the extra 1/4 that he's getting is not milva, because if something would happen to it, he's not responsible for it, and therefore it's just bikadon. So if he's getting more, that would be looked at as that extra quarter would be. He's getting 1/3, 2/3. So if he's receiving 2/3, so
McConnell's getting 1/3, or he's suffering.
Right, if he's getting one half of the profits, So then he will have to, the Noisain will have to take on himself 2/3 of the hefset.
Which means the Makabel is taking 1/3 of the house.
Right. So he's getting, so that's a benefit that he has less hefset that he has to be responsible for. So that's an advantage. So therefore you could say, therefore, that whatever he is taking responsibility for, that's the part of his loan. That's what is a milva. And therefore, if he's going to end up more than 1/3 of profit, which there's a certain amount of the profit that is not going to be connected his halva, and that part is going to be connected. So then, why is he getting that? Why is he getting that profit? And that's because he's being paid for that small amount that is not even his. It's part of the pikadon. It's the profit that grew off of the pikadon. That is his wage for taking care of the profit, for helping grow the profit of the investor. And therefore, it was all included in they fluctuated between the responsibility, and how much responsibility and how much wage would be received. Or you could look at it the other way. Ipalga behefset, and if we would say that the makabel has palga behefset, not just 1/3 of the hefset, it's responsible for half of the hefset. Well, that would be like his whole loan is half of the full value. So then where's the payment for working for the other half? So tre tilte ogar. So if he has half hefset, responsibility for half the loss. So where's that's really like his halva? Where's his profit going to be? His profit will be a little bit more than the amount of his loan, which is tre tilte ba'agar. He'll have 2/3 of the profit, and that little bit that he's receiving more than the amount of his loan, which is more than half. That will be his pay for helping to grow the profit of the investor. So tre tilte ba'agar. That's how Rav Elish would have worked it out, because he was an Adam Gadol, and that's the way he must have been working. Omar Rav Kahana, Amrisa Lishmaisa Kamei Rav Zvid. We told this all over to Rav Zvid Minardo. Omar Li told me, Rav Kahana asked, and Rav Zvid told him, Rav Kahana, Omar Li, Duma Rav Elish Toivel Imo B'tzir Habit. Maybe just we don't have to go into those explanations. We can just say that maybe the reason why he was able to go into a deal like this was because he held like Rabbi Yehuda that we just brought down, that the halacha was like him, that you can just benefit with the smallest amount, and that's the payment to the makabel. So maybe he held like that, and he had received some small benefit, and that was his pay. Why do we have to go into working it out the way we just explained it? So the more answered, those that we brought down before, that Reb Nachman mentioned all those halachas, he wasn't saying that's how we paskin. He's just bringing down shitas of different poskim, what their sheet that in showing how their shitas were very similar to each other, but not that we paskin like them in learning. So Omar Rav Nachman, he's quoting what we saw before, halacha ki Rabbi Yehuda. So Omar Lei, so Reb Kahana answered back to Reb Zvid, Omar Lei, love hilchas sa'itmar. It wasn't that was the halacha, ela shita itmar. Reb Nachman was just saying that this is a shita. Rashi in the last wide line, the fourth line down from the top, shita itmar. He was just saying a shita. That was what Reb Nachman was saying. Hachi Omar Reb Nachman, Reb Yehuda, Reb Yossi, Beno Shel Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Kulan Shita Achas Omru Dibrehem. Just showing that they're all hilchas halacha. He wants to show that what they were stating was really a similar shita. And that's what he's explaining. Well, not that halacha is necessarily according to those Manda Omrim. And therefore, we didn't want to explain Rev Elish to be going like that. And we explained on the way we did. Ella shita itma. And he says it's mamash mustaba that way. So we should learn like this. Hachinami mustaba, that we are learning that we're just trying to compare them as having the same shita, and not that we're saying halacha is like each one of them. Because if if halacha was like each one of them, we could have mentioned the one that's most makel out of those three, and we wouldn't have had to mention the other two, and we would have known that halacha is like the other two, and it didn't. Rav Nachman didn't learn it that way. He went through each one saying halacha ki Rebbe Yehuda, halacha ki Rebbe Yosef Rebbe Yehuda, halacha ki Rebbe Shimon Gamliel. Why would that have been necessary? That's the way the Gemara is learning. Hachinami mistabra to elo temahachi. If we weren't saying that he was just trying to show that they were holding of a similar halacha, so lama lemichoshav v'leimar halacha. Why would it have had to be enumerate that the halacha was like each one? Lema halacha k'Rebbe Yehuda, the mekel mekulahu. Just mention that the most mekel shita, and then we would know that halacha is like those other two also. Rav tells us halacha that it's muter shlish b'scharcha. Meiser shlish b'scharcha. How is it muter? If that meiser shlish b'scharcha. How is it muter? If two people are in a business deal and they're going to raise a animal livestock, and after they raise it from its from it as a baby into a more valuable adult, they'll sell it, and then the profit they'll split. So one way you could pay the work person is by saying that after this animal will develop and grow more than 1/3 of its value that it was at the beginning, then anything beyond that point you can keep. So we'll split the profit from where it began until when it reaches 1/3 of its value that it was in the beginning. And after it reaches that point, all extra growth and appreciation will be for the work, the labor person.
Doesn't that have the same problem? If it doesn't increase 1/3, then the worker loses.
That makes it better.
That makes it the same problem we had before. We said if it appreciates, everything's fine, but if it depreciates, then the worker is losing out, and that's interest. So that's the same thing here. If it doesn't make 1/3 profit, then the worker's losing out, and therefore it's like interest.
If it depreciates, so he's going to take half the loss. That's the deal. Half the loss or half the gain.
That was a problem.
Right. Half the loss in these types of deals is he worked and he just took loss. That's not going to look like ribbis. When there's gain and then it's like he worked for the benefit of the investor. But when you could work it out that the payment that the labor person will receive is anything beyond the 1/3 appreciation. And that's what Rav said. Shmuel Omar, lo matzah meiser shlish, lo matzah. That can't be. We can't use that as the payment to the work person. That because what happens if lo matzah meiser shlish yelech lebeisa reikan? If there's no extra, so what? If there's no extra shlish, then that means that the work person will end up with no payment for his efforts. It was mashma that the only payment that he's going to receive is anything beyond 1/3, and the truth is he's supposed to get half of the profit from the time when it began until 1/3 also, but it's just that he was going to get also any appreciation after 1/3. But since you wouldn't be able to give him, if there was no more than a third, you wouldn't be able to give him wouldn't be able to split it half and half, because then he would be like he was ribis. He was working for the investor in order to, because of his appreciation for what he was, for his half of the. So he's saying, what if there's no third, then he's not going to get anything? So Shmuel didn't like that hezbollah. Ela Omar Shmuel, kaitetz lo dinar. So what you do is you give him in the beginning. Here's money. You're going to work. This is going to cover the amount of work that the makabel is going to do for the noisein, and then they will split all appreciation from the value that it improved since from the beginning, and that's what Shmuel says you do. And
So he gives them a dinar, and then will they subtract that from the profit? If the profit comes?
no. He gets profit plus that dinar. Right. And that dinar is the payment for working for the investors and profits. So why did Rav say that you don't have to worry about that? What happens if there's no third? What happens? What? So Rav holds that you don't have to, because it's the dinar. You don't have to fix the dinar in case. See, according to Shmuel, the dinar is there in case there's no third. And if it goes beyond a third, then you don't have to give him the dinar probably. But what? So Rav doesn't need the fixing of that dinar. What does he do with? What if it doesn't reach the third? And then it'll be he won't get paid, or if you just split it, it'll look like ribis. So V'sova Rav ein koyitzin lo dinar. You don't have to fix that dinar. So Homa Rav, that can't be. We learned the Rav said that when you're raising animals together, Homa Rav reish egla lipitumah. If someone gave an animal an egel, a baby calf, to be raised, so he told the makabel, the noisein told the makabel that you take the head of the animal, and that'll be your pay for fattening up the animal. And then when it gets to the level where we're supposed to be, where we can shecht it, we'll split the profit. But you get the head of the animal, and that's your payment for working for the side of the noisein, for the noisein's profits. So, and that's Rav said this. And what were we talking about when he said take the head? So my love, the Amarle Meiser Shlish Mischacha. Weren't we saying in a case where they really stipulated that your wage for working for the side of the noisein will be anything beyond a third? And aren't we talking about a case that he was worried that if it won't go beyond a third, I'll give you the head? And so therefore, we see that Rav does really worry about being koitetz, some type of some payment in case it doesn't go beyond a third. And for the Gemara alone, that's not what Rav meant. It's not a raya that Rav even holds of that koitetz dinar. Lo, to Komar Le, because what he told them, meiser shlish. So he told them that whether it goes beyond a third, Iresh agla the pituma. See Rashi, we're down in the narrow lines of Rashi, 8 or 9 lines down. Reish egla lipituma, hamakabo egel lipitmo, to fatten him up. The machsis, to split the profit. Harosh yitol kulo, he'll take the whole head. Lechelko, as for himself. B'schar amolo mezayno, to cover all of his expenses for while he's working for the profit of the noisein. Ve'ashar cholkin b'shaveh. So, more next Rashi says, "My love, the Omar Le."
What is the Schar cholkin
the rest of the profits they'll split, but he would have gotten his wage for the for having worked for the Noisen. Then we said, are we talking about that he was? We do see that Rav holds of Kotetz Dinar, that we're talking about, that he said, the Gemara said, my love, the Amar Le, Moiser Shlish Bischarcha. We were talking about a case of Moiser Shlish Bischarcha. And Rashi says, the next Rashi, my love, the Amar Le, take your wage will be anything beyond the third. Bashmi'inin Rav. Ilega Moiser Shlish. All we're hearing from Rav is that if there's no Moiser Shlish, Nishko Reish Egla. That all you do is isn't that what he's talking about? That when you don't have, that's like Kotetz Dinar. So we see Rav does hold like Shmuel of Kotetz Dinar. And isn't that what he was telling us? More says, no, that's not what. Next Rashi says, what Rav meant was Ki Koma Rav, Harizeh Moiser. Kikoma Rab, Harizeh Mutter. You can still do it. No, that's Vita. That's later. That's later. No, that's later. It's not Nogeh. So the one. So Gemara answered, no, it's not going to be a raya that he holds of Kotetz Dinar. Lo, to Kamar Le, no, what Rav meant was that when he said that is, or take your profit, your wage in anything which is more than a third, or take the head. That's what he was saying, but not that he was saying that take the head if it doesn't go beyond a third. He just the Noisen was giving him an option, or take the Moiser Shlish as your wage, or take the head as your wage, and that's what he was telling him. So it's not going to.
Saying if it's not more than the third, take the head.
No, in the beginning, he's choosing. Choose what you want.
Let's choose now.
The Omar Le, I Moiser Shlish, I Reish Egla Lepitma. Which one do you want? That's what he was telling him, but not that he was saying Kotetz Dinar. Another way of explaining Ibois Ema, we could say that Ki Kama Rav, when Rav said that Moiser Shlish, Bischarcha, Rav said the din of Moiser Shlish Bischarcha, Mut, that it's okay to give the wage in that form. Going, what do we mean? To Aisle Behema Day. That's when the Makabel has animals of his own, and therefore, when the Noisen gives him, and there's this possibility that it might not go beyond a shlish, so how come we're not worried that they'll end up splitting equally? The reason is because the Makabel has animals of his own, and therefore there's really no tircha. He's not doing any extra work, because since he has to do the work anyway for his own animals, so by taking on this other animal, he's not really any tircha, and therefore, if there won't be an extra third, it's not so bad. See the next Rashi in what we were reading, it's up from where we are, it's up about 6 lines. Kikama Rab, Harizeh Muta, we said it's fine to do, that you can have your wage will be anything beyond the third. Afagav de Zimnin, Leika Moiser Shlish, how can he say that it's okay? because it's not so bad. And the next Rashi says, "Kigon to Eslei behemoths." He himself has the animals. The Mekabel, the Yesh Olai Litroyach Lifnei Behema Isav, Bishvil Behema Achas Imohem Ein Tirchon Isav. Therefore, he's not really exerting any effort to take care of this animal anyway. So it's not so bad, and therefore we're not worried about if there won't be any profit beyond a third anyway. Weiter. To Omrei, the Gemara is explaining to Omrei Inshe, Govil Litura, Govil Liture. As you take care of your ox, take care of mine also. It's not any extra work for the person. He's anyway doing it, going through the actions of taking care of the animal. So throw some extra food in front of the second animal. Weiter.
Why does it say twice?
It's an expression, the Amrei Inshe, Govil Litura, as you're taking care of your animal, Govil Liturai, so take care of my animal. Rabbi Elazar Magronia, Zavin Behema, he bought an animal, Yoyivle Larise, Fatimle. So he gave it to his sharecropper, who was like a shepherd, to raise this animal that he bought. Fatimle, Yoyivle Reisha Ba'agre, and he made up that he would give him the head, and that would be his wage. Like after they split the profits, he would also be getting the full head, and that would be his payment for working for the side of the noising, of the balabayas. Yoiv palga revocha, and then they would split the revach also half and half. So Omrle de Besu, his wife of the sharecropper, told him, Tefis Bahadei Yoivlach Nami Alisa. Oh, you're as a sharecropper, you're getting the whole head. Imagine what you would get if you were his partner, because if he's giving you, right, because you're working and you're doing all the work, and because of the work that you're doing, he's giving you like something extra instead of, and you're also going to split the revach also. So imagine if you were like owned half and half and you were doing all the work. You would have to get more than just that something extra, because you're doing all the work and he would give you more than just the head. So why don't you just like buy into the whole animal and you'll get more. You'll like benefit better. So Ozil, meaning he'll also give you the tail of the animal, the fatty tail. So Ozil Zobin Bade, he went mamish and bought into the animal. And when it came time to split the profits, Polygle Malisa. Oh, that's what she said. Nami Malisa. Ozil Zobin Bade, Polygle Malisa. When it came time to split, he didn't give him the Alisa, the tail. He split the Rabbi Elazar split the tail. So Amalei, so the sharecropper said, Amalei Rabbi Elazar, Taniflage L'Reishi. Then Rabbi Elazar told the sharecropper, let's go, so let's split the head also. So the sharecropper said, what? I don't even get like in the beginning when you were going to give me the whole head. Now that I'm your partner, I don't even get to be like the first condition that you made with me. Rabbi Elazar told him, Hashta. Oh, so this is the sharecropper. Hashta kimiyukura nami lo. I'm not going to get either. So Rabbi Elazar told him, Ad ha'idna zuzi didi habu. Up until now, it was all my mamonis, all my money, and you were working, and you were going to take half. So if I wouldn't have given you something, they would have looked like ribis, because you're laboring for my benefit of my profits. So porta michze kiribis. So that's why I had to give you something. I was willing to give you the head. So hashta shoots fi anan. Now once we're equal partner owners in this animal, So my comment, what are you claiming now? What's your claim now? The fact that you did all the work and I didn't do any work. So that's why you're claiming to get the head because you did the work and I didn't. So that's not a good taina. Omri Ichi, people say, Stam Arisa Lamori Ara Kmishabid Nafshe La Suyule Raya. Because people say that when a person hires a shepherd for their sheep, so he doesn't, that shepherd in general, which the shepherd is also like a sharecropper, so that shepherd is also takes on responsibility that he's going to find pasture for the sheep, and that the bala, the owner of the sheep, doesn't have to buy it in the shuk. That's one of his things. He's going to walk all over the place. It's one of his. He's meshubit. He's meshabit himself to this in order to find pasture land so that the owner doesn't have to have an extra expense of buying it in the shuk. So you see that a sharecropper and a person who takes on this type of a deal, he takes on himself to put himself out for the employer. So the fact that you had to do a little bit of work in raising of this animal, even though that you're half owner. So anyway, that's expected of a person like who's like being hired. So Tana Rabbanan. See Rashi, video where we are in the Gemara, one line up. The Chosa to Fei Porta. Where is your claim to get the extra more than me? Because you did more work than me. Lachnisu lahoitzi, to because you did that work. Did all the labor. The ilu mazon. When it comes to the food, you don't have to get reimbursed because you didn't have any extra expenses. Since we were partners, we split all that evenly. Imhutrich l'subin or l'sayrin. Kanita le'em, so we share the expense. Kederach shutfim. And anyway, lesuye le raya. It's when a shepherd is hired that he takes on himself. He's meshabed himself. Mara lebehemos she'eno tzarich liknos b'shuk sheyesh olav litroyach b'shvilo. He takes on that effort to walk all over the place that the animals will feed on hefker. Grazing in grazing areas, so the owner doesn't have to buy food for them. So that's a tircha that he accepts on himself. So that effort that he put out to like raise the animal, it's not really considered. It's not considerable because it's no longer in the Indian.
Shepherd getting paid a salary?
I'm not sure how they get paid, but any shepherd that is hired, part of his job is to put himself out he doesn't just sit there and put the food in front. He has to walk all over the place to try to.
But he's getting a salary. And this guy's not getting any salary.
See, he's not. The point could be over here that he's not there's nothing here that looks like a halva, that he's working just because of the benefit of money that was put in his hand to use. And so therefore, if you're worried about him not getting paid for certain efforts that he put himself out, so that's anyway expected of him in his job that he's hired for, and whatever money he's probably getting paid. If he's his worker, he's getting paid on the side for the other types for being a shepherd. So he's already getting paid for that. So he doesn't deserve any more in this particular deal that they're doing with them between themselves. He doesn't deserve any more for that effort that he's putting out. That's included in his wage that he's receiving for being a shepherd. Tana Rabbanan, Hasham behema lechaveru. So a person, again, they will go into a deal to raise animals together, an animal, and they estimate the value of the animal in the beginning stage of the deal. So whenever they do that, how long do they have to let it grow? How long do you have to grow the animal before you can reap the profits? Because it makes a difference. For example, the person, the makabel is the one doing all the work. He would rather just like cut the deal, get whatever profits he has, and stop having to put his efforts into it. Whereas the noisein wants him to keep growing it so he can have more profit. But how long do you have to grow the animal for before it's acceptable to shecht it and split the profits? Sumchus Omar bit asoinois with, like, I guess, female mules, donkeys. Asoinois, so it's a large animal. It's a behemagasa. Shmona also chodesh. It's 18 months. You have to raise it. Begoidrois is lashon behemadaka, smaller animals. It's the lashon of the psukim, how they're referred to as goidrois. Those smaller animals require more care. They have to be cared for longer. Chavdalid chodesh. Imbo lichloik b'taich.
24 months?
24 months, 2 years. And if they came, someone wanted to come and split the profit earlier than these times, the imbo lichloik b'taich zmano. So in these, once we have these fixed times, so then the one can be ma'akav the other from splitting early, because they have an obligation to prevent the other. One can stop, prevent by way of basting, the other one from splitting it early. Chaveru ma'akav olav, aval eno doime tipula shel shana rishayna. That even though that he can stop them with these animals, if they're trying to split it early, you should know that the tipul that they had for these animals in the for the first year is not similar to the tipul of the other years. The care that you have to put in, the first year is different than the care in the second. And the understanding here is that the care of the first year is less than the care because it requires more food and they're bigger. And therefore, and the Gemara says, Aval, my Aval says, my Aval, the Komar, we said above, Aval. Aval enu doima, the tipul of the first year with all the tipul of the other years. The Gemara asks, my Aval, the Komar, doesn't make sense because the understanding here is that one can prevent the other from splitting the profit early. And then we said, but you should know the difference between the two, the first year and the other years is they're not the same. And we're understanding here the later years is more effort. And that's why the doesn't make sense, because that's exact reason why the noisin can prevent the makabel from shefting it early. That's the reason why the makabel would want to sheft it early, to get out of having to work, and he could even if he will receive less profit, at least he doesn't have to spend his time taking care of it. And in a case like that, the noisin can stop him. And so if we're saying that, and then we say, oh, but the second year is much more work than the first year. Why is it being said? That's exact reason why the noisin can prevent him from shechting it early. So doesn't make. What do you mean? Aval noisin. It's even more of a reason for us to know that the makabel shouldn't be shechting it early, even though he has more incentive to shecht it early. So what do you mean? But you should know that the later years are more difficult to take care of than the early years. Doesn't make sense. So the Gemara therefore understands it differently. Elo lefi she'eno doima tipulo shel shana zu, the tipulo shel shana acheres. That's the new hezber. Rather, the later years are easier than the first years. The first year requires much more care. They can't, because the animals can't take care of themselves at all, and the later years they can take care of themselves more. And therefore, even though that in later you might think, nevertheless, you might think that would be the where we are on the Gemara down about 4 lines. Ella, what the hezber is, hachi kamar lefi she'enu doime. It's not doime the later years than the first year. V'keven dekach, since they're not doime, they're different. Kach minhag hamikablin chaveiro ma'akev olav. So that's why we Therefore, the makabel, the noisin, kema'akav, right? That's why even the makablim, where it's not so much work for them in the later years, so even the makablim can tell the noisin, no, I'm not gonna split it early. He can even because it's not so much work for him, so he wants to keep it growing to make more profit. So even there, even he can be ma'akev the noisin if the noisin wants to check it early. Weiter. Tanya Idach, we have another brisa. Hasham behema lechaveru, someone who estimates the behema in the beginning. They're going to go into this deal of growing the animal. Ad matai chayiv litapel bivlados. How long do you have to if their new babies are being born from this animal? So how long do you have to grow the babies? Bivlados. So the more answers bidak if we're dealing with the small animals like sheep, goats. So it's lamed yom. You have to keep the baby has to be tended to for 30 days. Bigasa with oxen and cows. Nun yom. It's 50 days. They learned it from the psukim with bechorim and bechorais. How long before the animals have to be given to the kohanim, and they applying it to here. Rabbi Yossi Omer bidaka gimel chadashim. It's not gimel 30 days. It's gimel chadashim 3 months. B'nei shemitu shetipula meruba. Rather because that there's they require more care. So tipula, my tipula meruba. What do you mean? What is why the behemadaka? Has to be more care involved. Dakos, because their teeth are so fragile, they can't eat anything, and so therefore they have to either nurse or be taken care of by a professional experts that know how to care for for them, and they require more care. They have to be taken care of for longer. You can't just and if they don't keep them that long, so they weren't fulfilling their obligations with this deal. After that point, noitel mechza, then they can split the profit. Shalov mechza v'chetzi mechza b'shel chavera. So then after that point, he has to be paid for the profit that he worked to grow the profit for the noisein. So he takes his half. The makabel takes his half, and then he takes on the half of the noisein. So that profit, you split that profit in half, and you give half of that profit. We're just talking about the vlados because the original deal was on the mother. So any vlados, however, that came from that original investment animal, so those we're splitting a bit differently. Those on the half of the profit of the noisein will be also given to that will also be given to the makabel.
So the makabel gets 3/4 of
the babies. Rab Menashia bar Goda shokel mechza shalo v'chetzi mechza b'shel chaver. Like we said, and half of the mechza of the noisein. And then after having done that, also look made the Abai, he came to Abai. Omalei, he told him, so man polyglach, he said, it's not good what you did, because how do you know that you split it properly according to the right estimation? Who did your splitting? So therefore you have to retract it because we don't trust your splitting, your estimation. But another problem is with what you did was makam shenoigu ligdal. Makam shenoigu ligdal, in a place where they who. The problem was that where he had done this, and it was a place where you're not supposed to be shechting it early. You're supposed to grow them all the way to adulthood, the babies. That was what their minhag was, and he's cut it early. So now we learned that when you're in a place where they're supposed to grow them all the way to adulthood, that you're supposed to let them grow, and if you don't, Rashi, the bottom line of Rashi's, Yagdilu, Havlados. You're supposed to grow the Vlados all the way. Ad Shiu, Gedolim, all the way till they're adults. The Enu Noitel Bishel Chaveru Klum. You're not supposed to take anything from the Noisin at all. Just keep growing them.
Is that the end?
Once. Maybe there are. It's a question. You just don't take any part of the other person's profits, but you would maybe have to. He would have to get paid, maybe something, but you wouldn't take the profits of the other person. Right. So it wasn't asking that the person had taken done like that, taken part of the profits of the noisein on the vlad. Haneu tre kutoye, there were two kusim. The Ovid Iska, they had made a deal like this. Bahadi Adod the Azil, Chad Menayu, Polik Zuze, below Daite de Chavre. They were dealing with money. One, they had money available, and one split the money without the other one knowing. So also look made the Rapapa, he came to Rapapa. So Amalei, he told the other person said, why? You split without me being there.
I'm lost.
They had a deal that I guess money was given to one person to go buy Schar and to sell it at a profit. Schar is merchandise.
Okay.
I guess he sold it and he got he sold it. He bought merchandise and he bought merchandise and then he sold it. And now he had in his hand money that was supposed to be split.
Between a different case. Forget the
a new case. It was supposed to be split. And one just decided to split it, the money, and just on his own, unilaterally split it and not consult with his partner about splitting it. And then it's not so complicated to split a $10 bill. Each person gets 5.
Right.
So he figured there's nothing wrong with it. But the other person didn't like that he split it. Omalei, so my nafkamina, so Rav Papa told him, what do you care? You have your half and he has his. So Ochi Omar Rav Nachman, because Rav Papa was quoting to him the halacha that when it comes to money, Zuze commanded Polge Damu. That it's anyway like it's split already because it's so everyone knows how much there is. So there's no problem if one just takes his portion. So the told the person there's no to go. So Lishana after another year, Zovin Chamra, they bought Bahadi Adodi. These two Kusim bought some wine together in order to do a deal to sell it at a profit and split the profit. So Kom Idach Poligle below Daite Dechabre. So the one that had felt that he was taking advantage of the previous year now took the barrels of wine and decided to just split it on his own accord. He would take his half without consulting the partner. He would get the other person back. So also Likmei to Rav Papa. They came to Rav Papa. So Amalei, Man Poliglach, what did you do over here? Why did you split it? You're not supposed to split it. Who split for you? It probably wasn't split, estimated properly. How can you guarantee that you split it evenly at the right rates? So Amalei, Kochazina de Basadi Day Koasi. Seems like you're in the favor of my friend. Last year you didn't let me. When he split it, what he did was okay. This year when I split it on my own, so it's not okay. Seems like you're in the favor of my friend. So Amalei, Osima. Seems like you're coming to help out my friend. Omar Rav Papa told him, no, not at all. Say, in this case where they're dealing with the wine, of course you have to, if you're going to split, you have to tell the partner exactly what you're doing so that you can know how you're splitting it. But when it came last year with the Zuze, with the money, Zuze, Mishakal Tavi Vishavik Chosre. It's not shy to take your half and leave him with a worse half. It's just money. Because Chamra Kuli Ama Yodai Ika Be. See, the Chamra, it was more complicated. Everyone knows that the estimation of the wine can get complicated because there's different types of wine. Some wine is used for making the floor, throwing it on the floor, making the house smell very good. So you need a very old and quality wine for that. Otherwise, it doesn't do any good when it doesn't help to fragrance the house. And other wines are made for drinking. They don't need to be such quality old aged wines, and they can be worth much less. So Chamra Kuli Ama Yodai. The Ika be the Basim, the Ika de lo Basim. There's different types, so that's why. So here we want to bring out that point that that you can't just estimate when you go to split merchandise. One of the times that basically can tell you is if you did it on your own, you can get. They're going to be suspect that you didn't split it properly. What we said before, Amarav Nachman. Zuze command polge dam. We just said when you're dealing with money, so that's already as though it's split, and there's not such a problem if one will take his chelik by himself. So hanimili, what are we talking about? What type of money is okay to split? One partner can split without the consent of the other partner. Hanimili, tavi tavi, tikule bitikule. If you're dealing with money, coins of the same like quality. They're good, all good coins, or all like battered up coins. About Tavi Vitikule, low. But if you're dealing with battered coins and good coins, so maybe you can't just split because they're not equal quality. Some even would be they would be better currency in the shuk. Some people would accept them. The other one, maybe people wouldn't accept the battered up coins. Omer of Chama, Havi Moiger. Zuzo, Pashta. So what the new case, Rav Chama said that he used to rent out money. He would rent Moiger Zuzo Pshita. People wanted like a higher amount of money. He would rent it to them by the day for smaller amount of money for copper coins. Rent it out. He figured, what's the difference if I rent out $100 or if I lend out $100 shovel to somebody? Difference. I rent out a shovel for a certain amount, or if I I charge him $5 a day to use a shovel, $100, and I charge him $5 for the $100. What's the difference? So he did that. The Zuza B'Pshita. Lioma per day. So Kol Zuze de Rav Chama, all of the money of Rav Chama vanished. So he thought the reason he thought it was okay. He thought, what's the difference between this and a shovel? Renting out a shovel, renting out tools to people. Below, the answer is not really. It was a wrong cheshbon. It's not the same. Renting out money is not the same as renting out a shovel. Why? Because when you rent out with a car, there's depreciation, is wear and tear. So when the person pays the rent, he's paying the rent of the wear and tear that the kli incurred. But when he'll take money and return money, he's not. There's no wear and tear on the money. It's not even the same money. So therefore, what are you paying him for? You're just paying him for the fact that he gave you money to use for a period of time. So that's agar notar. That's wage for the waiting of the money. Whereas with an object, it's being paid. The depreciation is being paid. For the shovel, you wore out my kli more, so you're paying me for that the wear and tear.
There's also profit.
He has to take profit also.
People don't rent things out just for the exact depreciation. They rent it out for that and profit.
Right.
At the end of the day, they made a bunch of money. When the shovel's finally broken, they still made money, right? They have enough money to buy a new shovel and still have a profit.
Right. So the fact that I guess it's not beginning with agar natar. There is never a point where it's being paid the payment that is being received is just for the usage of the time, like hamtanis mice, purely waiting for the money. So therefore, profit is maybe it's for the tircha of carrying or storing the shovel in the meantime. Different expenses have to be taken care of also, and profit for his efforts have to be paid for the person who's renting out the shovel. And it has nothing to do, and none of that has anything to do with hamtanas mois. So that's what he answered, that is not comparable. V'lo he zomara hodra be'ena. Hodra comes back intact as a shovel. V'yoda pichosa, and you will see what was how it was worn down. However, when it comes to money, zuze lo hodra be'ena. You're not getting the same exact zuz back. Lo yoda pichosa, and therefore there's no connection between the payment and the depreciation of the money that was lent out. So therefore, the only thing that it can be that you're getting paid for is hamtanas mois, and that's ribis. Amarava, shoyle leinish lemeimar le lechavrei. People are allowed to tell their friend, Helich dalit zuze, uzpe leplonia zuze. Take this money. I'm giving you money. I want you to go and to lend to person B, C, that like a zuz. So I'm paying you to lend out some money to somebody. So that's not ribis, because ribis is only between the loiva and the malva. And this person A is not a lover or a malva. He's just giving money to the person B, which would be the malva, and he's actually paying him to give a loan. That's not a problem. Lo asra taira ela ribis haba miloy v'lemalva. That's the only issue ribis. Amarava, shoyle leinish lemeimar le lechavrei shokil loch arba zuze ve'omar le ploini le uz fin zuze. It's also mutter to give money to a person and tell that person to go speak to the malva for me that he should give a loan. So the person is getting paid for persuading the malva to give the loan. So that's also mutter, because the money that he's getting is really just wage for being
messenger.
Oh, the one explains. My time, why is it mutter? Schar amira. Oh, he's getting money. Ish is mutter. Take this money, to give a loan to somebody else. So he's getting paid for talking to the malva. So it's a wage for being a negotiator. Lule, my time, schar amira kashakal. All he's getting is a wage for being a negotiator, a mediator. He had the aber mar bereda Rav Papa. This case. So Havishokel Ugna Dekira Mekire. Here, the son of Rav Papa, he took some blocks of wax from the wax sellers, and he went up to his father and told him to give a loan to the wax sellers. So the wax sellers gave wage to the son to petition his father to give that he should give them a loan. So Amalei la Avua Uzfinu Zuze. So the son went and told him to give a loan to the wax sellers. Omule Rabbanan, the Rabbanan told the Rapapa, Achul Berei Demar, Rivsa, your son just benefited from Rivas. So Rapapa said it wasn't Rivas at all. The money the wax that he received. Omalu Kol Kihai Rivsa Meichel. This type of Rivas we can eat. Lo osra Torah, because the Torah didn't osra Torah. Ela rivsa abo miloy v'lemalva. Hocha, but here it's b'chal not that. All it was a schar amira, wage for being a mediator. Kashakile v'shori. Zok like a Mishnah. Shamin para v'chamor. They took an adult para or chamor and they estimated its value. V'chol davar shu oisei v'oichel. And when the paro, the chamor, is by somebody, it earns its keep. It does work, and it earns the value of the food that it eats. So the machsa, they had it. And the work that it does will go to the makabel. It will work for the makabel. The makabel will then buy food for it and keep it. It'll grow bigger. It'll grow bigger, and it'll have babies, and they'll split the. It's like it'll grow bigger and it'll get more valuable, and also.
Back 1 second for a question. The wax merchants give the wax to the son. And the son goes to his father and says, "Lend me the money." That's mutter. What if the son goes to his father and says, "I'll give you half the wax that they gave me on the money"? Is that not ribus?
That's a good question.
It's not between the
Right.
buyer and the seller, but
It's
it's
not
directly between.
It's not the life. No. So the thing is, even a shliach of the lova and going up to the shliach of the malva, it's not ribis. The shliach comes and gives money to the loiva. Shliach of the loiva comes and gives money to the malva and says, "Give a loan to the malva." It's not ribis. Has to be between the loiva and the malva. Rashi says.
So in the case of the son, it would be mutter.
Would be mutter even to give it to the father. So here in the case of this Mishnah, it said. So they're going to grow these somewhat adult animals more. They're going to become more valuable, and all of the work goes to the makabel. Oichel mechse makom shinoigu lich es havlados miad holkin. So if it's in a place where the minhag is, that is, as soon as it gets to the stage that we discussed before, that they immediately split the profits. So you do that. Rashi says, where we are on the more down 2 lines, lichlok, the makom that the noig lichlok es hablados miad, they do it immediately. Kishitovu, when it comes to that time, kishitovu shas chalukoson. So kidarminim le'el that we mentioned before, that each one, the bedaka is shloshim, the begas it's chamishim yom. So what happens then? Cholkin, they do it when you come to that stage. But makam shenoigu ligdal yagdilo, makam where they come to that stage, but they still don't split it, and they let it grow even further. You have to let it grow. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer Shaman Egel im imo, like we said before, siach im imo, that the baby doesn't have to. No reimbursement has to be. You don't have to take into account the tircha of the makabel when it comes to the babies, when it has the mother with it, because the mother, the food is available from the mother's milk, and also you don't have to carry it around, because if you lead the mother, the baby will follow.
Isn't there an expense for birth? Would you have to bring in a veterinarian to help?
Usually animals just give birth by themselves. They don't have to have a midwife. So then it says v'mafriz al sadeu, that there's a din ve'enu choshesh mishum ribis. Person can, he's renting out a field to somebody, he can increase his rent for the people beyond the normal amount of rent that he would rent for that field, in order to if the person who was renting from him would give him a loan. So you can give the one who's renting the field out, the malva, can charge more money because the renter of the field, from the renter, if the renter is giving him a loan, and it won't be ribis. It's being nivla in the rent that he's charging for the field, but it's only works. It's absorbed in the rent, so it's not considered ribis. We're talking here. It's like a case of a sharecropper. The more we'll go into it. So, if the person sharecropper takes the field and has to pay back the owner of the field a certain amount of crops, he's like renting from the owner of the field. But if that sharecropper will then ask for a loan from the owner of the field, and he will pay more. He can pay more rent. Instead of give him 10 core of apples a year, and he asks for a nice big loan from the owner of the field, and I'll give you 12 core of apples. He's allowed to do, and I'll pay you back. I'll pay you back 12 core of apple instead of 10 core. I took your loan, and I'll pay you back the loan, and I'll pay you back the money. And that's only when the loan that he's taking is being used to like fertilize the land that he's renting, so-called renting, and then it's not considered that it's ribis, because it's just like by the money that he received as we're calling a loan from the owner of the field is invested into the field itself and improving the field, and better fields require from the sharecropper to the owner. So he's giving him a loan which is being invested into the field, improving the field, and now it's legitimate to ask more money back from the sharecropper. That's not considered ribis. But every time you do this, it has to be that the money being borrowed, so to speak, is being invested into the object. For example, if a person is a store owner, you can't borrow a store from a person, like a sharecropper took a field. You take a store from a person who has a store, and you're going to guarantee him some money back at the end of the year. You can't take a loan from the owner of the store, one who's going to run the store for the year. Can't take a loan from the owner of the store and say, I'll give you more back at the end of the year. I'll take this money, I'll buy produce with it, and I'll sell it in the store, and I'll give you more rent back at the end of the year, because the loan that he took had nothing to do with the store. Didn't make the store into a better quality piece of real estate that requires more rent. It just was, he's buying merchandise to sell in the store. It has nothing to do with improving the quality of the real estate that he rented. So therefore, that's only for the fact that he's paying him more is only because it's hamtanas mice. That you can't do. And we'll stop here.
But if you used it to improve the store, he could do it.